Hello there, Atheist Junior here, your friend and humble narrator. And in today's video, I'm going to be sort of watching, it's going to be a reaction to a reaction, reactionception. So, Paulogia came out with a video recently that was really great, and it was a hypothetical, uh, sort of what if scenario. It was if I debated Kent Hovind. It's kind of like O.J. Simpson's book, If I Did It, except with less murder. And it was him giving the stipulations for what it would take for him to be willing to agree to debate Kent Hovind. And it's pretty interesting because one of the things he says is that basically he would like Kent's legal issues to get resolved first before he would agree to share a platform with him, which I think is understandable. Of course, Kent didn't like that. And then he presents some pretty reasonable stipulations, and so we'll see if Kent agrees to them or just completely ignores them.
Kent Hovind and the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland Live, March 23rd. Today is official Atheist Day. So, we're going to whack one. Just sweetly in Christian love. Where's my SpongeBob right here? Whack an atheist, where we try to knock some sense into you atheists who believe this whole world came from nothing. We whack an atheist. It's fun. No atheists are harmed in the making of these videos. Okay, we're trying to knock some sense into you. We're trying to see, even small children can see how stupid the evolution theory is. It is dumb. Okay, so many atheists, so little time. We just keep whacking them back down or trying. Okay, now, Paulogia, your turn. Get your helmet on, son, okay? This is the image, Paulogia, muscles, and deep voice that he wants all to imagine as him. This is the real Paulogia. Now, will
Thank you for the super sticker, I Heart Dogs.
this thing automatically play the audio that...
Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started. My name's Paul. I run a YouTube channel called Paulogia, and I'm a former Christian. Kent Hovind was once a golden.
Anybody seem like he made his voice deeper and added a bunch of muscles on himself? Let's try that again here. Let's see. How do I? There.
So you played about 1 second of audio. And this image on the right is from the shoulders up. So I don't see where he would be adding muscles if you can't even see them. I mean, I guess, it's on the cartoon form. But I'm going to show, I added some clips in here of Kent being a total hypocrite because he has shown in one of his seminars, he had a cartoon version of himself where he has a chiseled jawline. And then if you've seen the picture of him on the outside of, or the gate at Dinosaur Adventureland that has Kent on it. Okay, it's pretty good.
There we go.
Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started. My name's Paul. I run a YouTube channel called Paulogia, and I'm a former Christian. Kent Hovind was once a golden star of the young Earth creation movement back in the era of VHS tapes. And I'm a former Christian, golden star of the young Earth creation movement.
Yeah, it sounds basically exactly the same. I know Paulogia I think he has an audio engineer for his videos, and he does he makes it so the audio is balanced between him and the clips he's showing in his pre-edited videos. And, he makes the audio sound nice, but I don't think he's adding bass to his voice. And if he did, who cares? What's the implication there? That he's trying to make himself sound more manly? Like, this is just not a thing that I think Paul cares about, Kent. This is the type of thing that you care about. Because, and even if he did do that, would that make the things that he's saying more or less true? Does that have any bearing on the veracity of his claims? No. I mean, this is just so irrelevant. Okay, so we have a super chat from Native Atheist for $10. It says, Kent sits in his ivory tower. Meet us in the real world, Kent. Says, yes, I am the king of the castle. Okay, I'm Hovind, and I sit in my tower. And I say, off with his head. And kill that guy, and pull out the guy's tongue, and bring me a Subway sandwich But no mayonnaise. Tell them not to put so much mayonnaise on it. I want one line, not 3 lines.
Back in the era of VHS tapes.
Seems to me like he added a few muscles and deepened the voice a little bit. That's okay, Paulogia. We understand completely.
Okay, so on the left here we have Kent's idealized version of himself on the gate at Dinosaur Adventureland, and then on the right we have the real Kent. Not that this matters, but I just think it's funny. And also, I think he's supposed to be standing next to a Brachiosaurus, and the scale is all wrong. Like that thing would be towering over him like a 30-story building, but he's almost touching its head.
Okay, let's see. There we go. He imagines that he's loaded with muscles. He imagines he has a deep authoritative voice. Now, there's nothing wrong with muscles, but there's something wrong with pride. God hates pride. They're jealous of my muscles and my money.
In glory land that outshines the sun way beyond the blue.
This is me in high school before I got sick. That's to match the bulging muscles, you know.
I took Jesus as my Savior, you take into. I took Jesus as my Savior, you take into.
My incredible physique is someday.
Oh, do, Lord, oh, do remember me.
This is not the time to laugh, Cindy. Okay. I can run faster now. By the time they caught me, they'd be too skinny to hold me down.
Way beyond the blue.
Yes. He imagines that.
Okay, so the point of that, if you didn't get it, is Kent sings with this ridiculously deep voice, and I just think that's funny, me, because it is projection. And okay, this is interesting. This comment. So it says Paul has briefly addressed this issue in a couple of his videos. Something like, yeah, because who would create an idealized fictional character of themselves? It's funny because that was in the Paulogia video that me and him did together, and I actually sent Paul that image of Kent at his seminar, and had him put it in the video, and it was the very first thing that comes up in the video. I just thought that was so funny. And he actually addresses that later in this video. And when I saw that, I messaged Paul and I was like, this is the greatest day of my life, because he finally had to address that. And I just thought his reaction was so funny. Yes, I apologize for making you guys listen to Kent singing. Sorry.
The minor variations we all see in any kind of plant or animal is proof that all life forms are related. Pure imagination, Paulogia. Evolution is a process of gradual change that takes place over many generations, during which species of animals, plants, or insects slowly change some of their physical characteristics.
Wait, why are you reading this? Where's the Big Bang in this? Where is the origin of life in this definition? Where is anything about star formation? They seem to be missing some of the parts of the definition of evolutionism.
He said in what he wants to call the debate with me, let me find that here. Is this it? Yep. Okay. Let's just let him talk for a minute. Rocket Atheist Wednesday with Dr. Kent the Science Guy.
I will admit, okay, maybe it's possible that it is a baby Brachiosaurus. I don't know. I just thought that was funny. I still think the babies would be pretty huge, but you know, I don't know.
Oh, thanks. I got it at church.
Where I wear red typically to, just.
It's Jesus shooting Charles Darwin.
Well, like the bull.
Why would Jesus want to shoot Charles Darwin?
Because of his blasphemous theories.
Okay, he's in a bull. We're going to cover that tonight. By the way, I'm playing the first probably 8 or 10 minutes of Paulogia's video where he said, if I debated Kent Hovind, then this is what he'd want to do. Okay, you're on. Fair enough.
I have to say, this is the worst possible way that you could do a reaction video. Okay, instead of Hovind, so clearly they're using some type of video software to overlay the image of Paul's video, or no, like they like film Kent watching a monitor of the video and then use the audio coming out from the speakers picked up on a mic rather than just using the internal audio of the computer. So it's horrible. I had to edit out also all of these pauses where the stream just like died because their internet is so bad. It's like, you guys have got to fix these issues.
Kent Hovind was once a golden star of the young Earth creation movement back in the era of VHS tapes.
Your videos, he brought me in a big box. This was before DVDs even.
Right,
so a big giant box of VHS tapes.
But back from returning from his involuntary hiatus, Kent has not been able to recapture mainline church relevance in the second half of his career. Acceptance of biological evolution among mainline believers has increased, and the remaining holdout congregations are turning instead to better funded, highly polished, more respectable organizations like Answers in Genesis, Institute for Creation Research, or even Kent's son Eric for their conference speakers and Bible study curriculum.
Ouch. I'll absolutely roast Kent in this video.
Hampered with travel restrictions, first of personal legal nature, and then of global health nature, Kent has pivoted to focus his efforts on his Dinosaur Adventureland property near Lenox, Alabama, and his near-daily YouTube videos. Given the number of people subscribed to Kent's 2 YouTube channels, the count of those actually watching is shockingly low and dwindling fast. If the comments are any indication, those soldiering on with him fall into 2 camps: the fanatic faithful and the masochistic hate watchers, tuning in primarily for drama and a cheap laugh.
It's amazing. As soon as one of ours goes up, we get a bunch of dislikes and thumbs down. We got plenty of trolls on our channel. Doesn't bother me.
Undeterred, 69-year-old Hovind
They're nice.
seems to have his eyes set on a legacy of quantity over quality. Even at his recent pace, the record for most wives is probably out of reach.
Oh man. Okay. Thank you, Crazy Ray, for the $4.99 super chat. It says, Dr. Cunt, the science runt. Oh, runts. I'm very interested to see that Kent is just playing this video and just not pausing or not saying anything about it. Why can't Kent do this with Aaron Ra when he watches his videos? Kent has been so bitter about his first discussion with Aaron Ra, which was all the way back when the Non Sequitur show was still with its original hosts. That's how long ago that was, and he's still mad about that. But he watches this video without having to pause it every 3 seconds.
But what about most debates?
I have now done 220 debates. I'm catching up. I'm going to try to. Gish is one of my heroes. He did 300 debates and lived to be 92. I decided I'm going to beat that or die trying.
Kent is not on a truth quest or even a conversion evangelical quest.
Several debates coming up, 5 this month altogether. I'll take on 100 more. Bring them on, guys.
He's merely looking for notches on his debate belt.
Paulogia, you are simply mistaken. We are focused here on getting people saved, getting people prepared to go to the kingdom of heaven, and that's the focus of our ministry. The debates are simply to shut idiots like you who believe they came from a rock up. Okay?
So you're admitting that you want to silence people who have opposing viewpoints to you?
A man who will do anything for one more victory notch on his belt, no matter what the cost, before he fades away.
He's even so transparent as to use the debate number in his video descriptions and on-screen calendar. When I've been watching the old man with no standards hits on literally every person in the bar.
She's the village bicycle. Everyone's had a ride.
It's difficult to take a personalized debate challenge from Kent as much of a compliment, but several have been extended to me.
And Paul, I'll debate you anytime live. Anytime. How many times have you debated or talked about Paulogia?
I've never really debated Paulogia. I've done a video on him.
I'd be glad to. Anytime.
Yeah.
Hey, bring it on.
So why haven't I accepted these challenges?
Great question. Let's hear it, Paulogia. Great question.
Can't stop winking at the camera all the time. It's weird, okay? It's creepy. Stop it. Over.
By the way, I'll extend it again tonight. Call me, 855-BIG-DINO. I'm extension 3. My phone's charging.
855 Big Dick Dino, extension 69. Hovind.
It's not because I'm scared.
You are. Yes, you are. Yeah, we know that, but that's okay. A coward. C-O-W-A-R-D. Coward. A chicken. A lily-livered frog.
I'm very much not afraid. Unfortunately, before we go on, I do need to make this disclaimer. While it has absolutely no bearing on the veracity of his science related claims, and while I value free speech and the open market of ideas, Kent Hovind is currently convicted of some serious charges, with an appeal withstanding. Others may make other choices, but I would need that matter resolved before I personally would be willing to share a virtual or physical stage with him.
You've got to be kidding, Paulogia. You have no clue what you're talking about, okay? We won't get into all that. Chris, is this coward's way out? Canadian. You're a Marine. Yeah. You ever have to fight alongside Canadians like this? No, thank goodness. Okay.
Well, that was just disrespectful. I mean, why do you have to put down the Canadian military like that? I mean, what does that have to do with anything? You're an asshole.
Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
But we're setting that aside for today's hypothetical question.
Right. That's why you brought it up, right, Paulogia? You're going to set it aside. Okay, go ahead.
What would it take for Paulogia to debate a name-cleared Kent Hovind? Well, it recently dawned on me why Kent Hovind debates are so frustrating and pointless.
Oh, they're frustrating because you guys are wrong and I'm right. Okay, they're not pointless. They make the point really well.
Kent and his opponents are never actually debating the same topic. The most important thing one can do before a debate is to come to agreement with your opponent in advance on the definitions of the key words or phrases in the debate topics. If the interlocutors don't agree on definitions, what they're actually debating is the definition and not the merits of the proposition. And definition debates are generally a waste of everyone's time, to everyone but the most pedantic among us. For example, when I agreed to debate Sean McDowell on Apostle Martyrs on the Unbelievable show, we first had a several email back and forth exchange, agreeing to some definitions, like the word apostle, and laying out some basic stipulations, like the existence of historical Jesus and the approximate dating of the Gospels, to keep the conversation focused, on track, and hopefully useful to the audience. Now, imagine that Kent Hovind and I were debating the topic, does Christianity harm society? And throughout the discussion, I defined Christianity as a cannibalism cult and would not back down from this. Kent would naturally point out that he defines Christianity differently, but rather than yield to his common usage, I would instead obstinately point to some out of context verses and staunchly refuse to discuss anything but the cannibalism cult that I imagine Christianity to be.
See, Kent, this is a metaphor for what you do, okay? You get that? Are you even listening? No? Okay.
Would such a debate be useful?
No, I don't care. No, I'm playing Tetris under the table.
To anyone? No, it would not. So why then would anyone expect a useful debate with Kent Hovind on the topic of evolution when no one on the planet who advocates for biological evolution would agree with Kent's definition of evolution? The debate is rendered useless before it's begun.
That's going to be some foreshadowing for this video.
Because at no point are the two opponents ever discussing the same thing in the same way. So, Kent famously has specific demands for any debate.
Equal time, one topic at a time, and no interrupting. Equal time, one topic at a time. Equal time. And one topic at a time. One topic at a time.
Kent doesn't really want equal time. What Kent wants is to have at least equal time, or preferably get to talk more than the opponent does.
No cursing and swearing.
Obviously, I have no problem with those. Equal time, one topic at a time, and I generally don't curse. But Kent would also need to stipulate to my terms. First and foremost, and I am of the strong opinion that henceforth, no human should grant Kent a debate without demanding this, that prior to the debate, Kent provide, articulate, and unwaveringly agree to a definition of biological evolution that would generally be endorsed by biologists who affirm the theory. We know that Kent won't believe it, and that's just fine.
You can study all that stuff, and when it comes time for the test, the teacher says, how old is the Earth? You can say, the textbook says 4.62937 billion years old. However, this is not correct. They know you did your homework, you studied it, you memorized it, you regurgitated it for the test, but you don't believe it.
Just like he advises school children, Kent just needs to demonstrate that he understands it, and we'll be debating the actual theory. If Kent's case against evolution is so strong, then he should happily agree to challenge the most rigorous and most accurate version of
That's a picture of me before I got sick, Colin.
evolution. If he won't agree to this, then he's admitting in advance that his arguments are against a straw man parody of his own making.
Foreshadowing. This is exactly what's going to happen.
And that he has no case against the actual theorem. Now, if Kent has been so brainwashed by his own decades of rhetoric that he can't come up with such a definition himself, I would
Dude, Clockwork Orange is my favorite movie.
happily allow him to consult college-level biology textbooks actively in use today in mainstream secular universities and written in the last 20 years. Nothing from grade school, nothing from before the year 2002. The debate would open by Kent reading the pre-agreed definition and affirming that he will not waver from this definition at any point in the conversation under penalty of forfeit. If I were debating Kent on the merits of creationism, I would expect to be held to Kent's definition of creationism. Following the definitional lead of the affirmative side is the best path to actual productive comparison. To reiterate, Stipulation 1 is agreeing in advance to definitions of the key terms, particularly the word evolution.
Okay, he's going to go to stipulation number 2 in a minute, but let me go answer this, Paul. Let's see. Here we go. And come over here. Click on this screen or something. Right, okay. What is the definition for the term evolution? Download it today off the internet. I don't know when Stanford University put it up there, but okay.
It literally says the date right there where they put it up. It says August 25th, 2017.
Evolution is defined as any net directional change or any cumulative change in the characteristics of organisms or populations over many generations. In other words, descent with modification. It explicitly includes the origin as well as the spread of alleles, variants, trait values, and character traits. Paulogia, I'm assuming you...
Where is the Big Bang in this definition? Where is the origin of time, space, and matter? Where is star formation, planet formation? Where's abiogenesis? So are you agreeing to this definition? No, of course you're not. Of course you're not.
would agree with...
so why are you even reading it?
Stanford University. Let's see. That's their definition.
Exactly. That's their definition, Kent. Not yours, and you're not going to agree to that definition. You're going to pretend like you're agreeing to Paul's stipulations when really you're just not.
Allele is a short form of the word coined by the British geneticist
Allelomorph.
Used in early days of genetics to describe a variant form, a variety. For instance, there are yellow ladybugs and red ladybugs. They have different allele, okay? Allele frequency, okay? How are alleles created? New alleles can be formed as a result of mutations. It is the ultimate source. Something is mutated, got a new allele, okay.
So is that new genetic information then?
Let's see. The genetic drift, the founder effect. Let's see. Gene frequency change due to a few individuals starting an isolated population. Founders carry some, but not all, alleles of the original gene pool. So a red ladybug gets blown over to an island, and now you got a whole population of red ladybugs. That happens, I guess. I mean, I would go along with that, right? So I collect biology textbooks. I don't know if I have any college biology textbooks from the last couple of years. I got...
From the last 20 years? Really? No? None?
Quite a few college and high school biology textbooks, but definition. They say life has evolved on Earth. Now, this is what bothers Paulogia.
Okay, well, that book was from, like, 1991, I think.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you why. And then, Paulogia, I'm going to grant your wish. Get ready, okay? Get ready to blow out the candle. I've said for many years the word evolution has 6 different meanings, only one of which is scientific.
So you've already lost the debate, Kent. You just lost. Okay, you said you're agreeing to the stipulation. You can't say that and then say, okay, well, actually, this is the real definition, but I'll let you ignore it. Okay, you disgusting coward. Okay, but but this is the no. You're not agreeing to the definition, Kent. So this is just a huge waste of time. If you're not actually going to agree to the rules, then what is the point of this?
And you don't want to talk about most of them. I understand why completely.
Because they're BS.
Cosmic evolution would be the origin of time, space, matter.
Space-time. Space-time. One thing.
You want to start.
Okay? So, fabric of space-time. Space-time as a concept is just fusing the 3 dimensions of space and the 1 dimension of time into a single 4-dimensional manifold. Okay? And second of all, Paul is not skipping, okay, the first 4 steps and starting when life already exists. This is where that's where the actual definition of evolution is. It's you, Kent, the creationist, who have added all of these other goalposts because you want to pitch evolution by natural selection versus your religious beliefs, which start with God creating the universe. But you can't do that if evolution is defined as something that starts with animals on Earth, so the planet's already formed, the animals already exist, and evolution is just defined as the process of biodiversity increasing. So you add origins of the universe, you add chemical nucleosynthesis, star, planet formation, and abiogenesis. Don't tack all that unnecessary baggage on and then complain when Paulogia wants you to focus on what's actually relevant.
Once life gets started, and then talk about evolution. Well, you got to have something to evolve. Where did it evolve? Where's the space, time, energy, matter come from?
And in the theory of gravity, it doesn't have to also describe where gravity came from and where every object with mass came from and where mass comes from. I mean, we don't have to have the germ theory of disease describe the origin of germs or the origin of living organisms that can have germs living on them or the origin of bacteria. It's not necessary. This isn't what scientific theories are. You don't have to explain literally everything leading up to it because that would just be a waste of time.
Cosmic evolution matters. It's all over the internet. Type in cosmic evolution. You have to have something to start with. Where did matter come from? Then you have to have chemical evolution because the Big Bang supposedly produced hydrogen and maybe a little bit of helium and some lithium. Let's see. In the beginning, at least following the Big Bang 14 billion years ago, there was hydrogen, some helium, and a little bit of lithium. Okay. I think that's stupid, but I'll give you that, all right?
You think that's stupid? No, it's not stupid. We know that during the formation of the universe, only the lightest elements were formed, hydrogen and helium, along with trace amounts of lithium and beryllium. We know this because there were no stars right when the Big Bang happened. And to get many elements past iron, they're formed when supernovae happen. So obviously you can't have those until you have stars form, live out their entire life cycle, and then die. So, okay, if you think that, you think that God just created all of the elements just, instantly right when he made the universe. I see how it is.
Well then, how do you get all the other elements? Origin of the elements. Approximately 73% of the mass of the visible universe is in the form of hydrogen. Helium is 25% of the mass. Everything else is only 2%. Well, okay. How do you go to iron, gold, silver, platinum, uranium from hydrogen gas? The low mass elements, hydrogen and helium, were produced in the hot, dense conditions of the birth of the universe itself. The birth, life, and death of a star is described in terms of nuclear reactions. 15 billion years ago, the universe began and is extremely hot and dense. It's interesting to read the old science books. They used to say 20 billion years ago. This one says 15. Now they say 13.772. None of them are right, but I think it's funny to see how they change it.
And you were supposed to use textbooks that are up to date. Why are you talking about books that say 20 billion years ago? What's the point of that? And you're talking about a scientific explanation of the age of the universe, and it gets lower and lower and lower as the answer becomes more accurate, as the data sets become more accurate, telescopes get more advanced, and we can measure the cosmic microwave background more accurately and understand the Hubble constant and how old the universe is. And that's why that number always gets lower. It doesn't randomly bounce around. That's how science works. But you're acting like that's a bad thing. So from Crazy Ray for $4.99, it says, I took a dump earlier and realized that you can make a Kent out of a non-Kent. Well, I'm interested to know how many Keurigs it was. And from Dave, Acid D Punch Drunk for £2 British pound sterling, it says Kent lives in his own universe. Yes, I invented my own universe. It's the Hovinverse, the Hovind Cinematic Universe. Hovind?
What's a few billion? They ought to run for government. Okay. In the equation, well, you can read all about this here. The quarks and electrons had only a fleeting existence as a plasma because the annihilation removed them as fast as they were created. Big Bang nucleosynthesis. Here we go. The third theory of life's origin is chemical evolution. In this idea, pre-biological changes slowly transform simple atoms and molecules into more complex chemicals.
A theory of life's origin, not evolution.
You have to have chemical evolution. The chemicals have to evolve. Chemical evolution. Google it. It's all over the internet.
Google it. Hovin's all over the internet. It's all over OnlyFans.
See, you say your Big Bang produced hydrogen and maybe some helium. I think anybody who had any chemistry knows you can't do fusion past iron. How are you going to get these heavier elements? They exist.
From stars exploding.
I bet you got some in your own body. So but you don't want to talk about chemical evolution. I understand why. Iron cannot be fused into anything heavier because of the insane amounts of energy and force required to fuse iron atoms. The iron in a star's core isn't the reason why the star went supernova. Its overall mass may explode, but the iron in its core caused it to die. So how are you going to fuse past iron, Paulogia? I know you don't want to talk about chemical evolution. I just thought I'd throw that out. I know why you don't want to talk about it, okay?
So I think when Kent talks about measuring star distance with parallax, the way he describes it, I think isn't technically wrong. But the problem is that he acts like that's the only way that we know how to measure star distances. But that's just not true, because you can use something called Cepheid variables or standard candles, where you know the brightness of a certain object or a certain type of star, because there are different stars like brown dwarfs and red giants and stuff like that, and you know the exact brightness, or you know the color, so you can use that to gauge distances like landmarks to certain stars. And one way that Kent talks about parallax distances is he'll be like, okay, if I have two surveyors on my roof in Lenox, Alabama, okay, and they're looking at a dot in Chicago, and they both have their own telescopes, and it's like, Kent, they would be under the curvature of the Earth. Are you a flat earther now? Of course you can't see to Chicago from Alabama. Like, that's dumb. That's dumb. It's real dumb.
But it's part of the theory, or else you have nothing to discuss. Then you have to have stellar and planetary evolution. The stars have to evolve. And Google it. Stellar evolution.
Stellar evolution is the process by which a star changes over the course of time. So it has literally nothing to do with biodiversity increasing.
Process by which a star changes over the course of time. Where did all the stars come from and the planets? They have to come from somewhere. You got a big bang of nothing exploding, producing hydrogen and helium. Then it has to evolve all the chemicals. Then it has to make the stars. This is all imagination. Stellar evolution. In the form of these fuel consumption stages and their finality, you can read all about stellar evolution yourself. Okay? Let's see. The silent embarrassment of modern astrophysics is we do not know how a single one of these stars managed to form.
A single one of these stars. So what are they talking about in that article that you left the context out of? These stars, not stars outright.
Nobody's ever seen a star form. Why?
Well, nobody's ever seen a mountain form in their own lifetime, but we still have mountains.
Stars evolve. Michigan University. Stellar evolution, the birth, life, and death of a star. It's all imagination coming from a cloud of dust. This is pure imagination. We could debate that if you'd like, Paulogia. This has never been observed of a gas turning to a solid by the collection, by the gravity pulling the particles together.
You think stars are solids? Stars are made of plasma.
It's imagination. Typical star exists for billions of years. Astronomers study stars at different stages of their life. Okay. The origin of stars is an unsolved problem. Back 30 years ago, it's still an unsolved problem. What, 3 years ago here? Stars are formed in giant clouds of dust and gas. You are dreaming. No one understands how a star formation proceeds. It's remarkable. They imagine that it happens. It's just imagination.
Yeah, we just imagine that we see stars in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little Hovind.
30 years of stars observed exploding. It's called a nova or a supernova.
Yeah, within our own Milky Way galaxy, not in the entire observable universe.
How many stars are there in the universe? Boy, it's a
great
question. Because the universe was born here 13.8 billion years ago, we can only observe objects up to a certain distance. Light from more distant objects hasn't had time to reach us yet.
Exactly right. Okay, for Math Wiz 742, it says Kent just sees any use of the word evolution, meaning change, and assumes it's related to biological evolution. Yes, this is very true. Like when Kent debated King Crocoduck, he asked him, he said, I have a textbook that's called The Evolution of the Schrödinger Equation. What part of evolution is that? You know?
And the answer, how many stars are there? We must limit the discussion to what we can observe. 76 till.
Yeah, they mean what we can observe within the observable universe. So obviously, we can't actually say how many stars there are in the universe. All we can do is see how many stars we can see within our own observable universe, or probably estimate because we can't count them individually. And then from that, you would extrapolate based on what we think the current size of the universe is, and then you could get a rough estimate. So that's what they mean when they say observe. They're talking about the observable universe.
Stars is the current estimate. 70 sextillion. That's a bunch, okay? 3 times as much as earlier estimates, but even this is probably still an underestimate. The Bible says God made the stars, just a couple words in Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God made the heaven and the earth, and he made the stars also. Oof.
You know, he just made the stars also, Hovind. So that's why you have to say, oh, we've never seen a star form. Stars don't form anymore. They're done. Fossils don't form anymore either because, you know, it said he made the stars also. So he made them. He was done. God rested. God is sitting in his lazy boy. He's watching Netflix. He's chilling. He's done making stars. Hovind.
It's no big deal for my God that I worship, okay? God said, Abraham, look toward the heaven. See if you can count the stars. He said, I can't count them, Lord. He said, that's how your kids are going to be. Nobody's ever been able to count how many Jews and Arabs there are in the world.
Nobody's ever been able to count how many kids Jim Duggar has.
He sent us a
Jim Bob Hovind. 15 Hovinds and counting.
Abraham.
Child pornography, Hovind.
Estimated 70 sextillion stars, maybe 3 times more than that, in the universe. That's enough for everybody on Earth to own 11 trillion of them to yourself. Each person can own 11 trillion stars. So if there's truly 70 sextillion stars and the universe is 13.7 billion years old, we should see 9.7 million new stars forming every minute. Nobody's ever seen one form. But you don't want to talk about stellar evolution, and I know why. Then there's organic evolution, the origin of life. Have scientists made life in the laboratory? If we look at the simplest creatures on the planet, we find a wee bacterium. Okay, let's start with a bacterium. You think that's simple? That lives happily in the digestive tract of cows and goats. It's only got 525 genes. It's one of the simplest life forms we've ever seen. The simplest life form is more complex than the space shuttle. A single bacteria, more complex than the space shuttle. Bacteria are more complex, capable of complex decision-making than thought. Summary, it's not thinking in human ways, dogs or even birds think, but new findings show bacteria are more capable of complex decision-making than previously known. Oh, just how simple are bacteria? Not simple at all. Frank Sherwin's a good friend of mine, ICR. Tell him I said hi. A new theory on organic evolution. The purpose of the work of this author is to test the common sense that Huxley says is science, whether the Darwinian doctrine, that is, the evolution of life on our planet, was brought about by natural selection.
The really funny thing is that Kent If Kent would just play the video and watch it a little bit more, he would see that Paul's second stipulation, or he would see that Paul is going to say that for the purpose of the debate, he would agree that the first replicating molecule was created by a designer. So first of all, talking about the all the 6 steps of evolution is irrelevant in the first place. But saying, oh well, you think that the origin of life was from rain on the rocks and the rocks turned into soup and the soup came alive. No, he's not saying that, Kent. He's agreeing with you that there was a designer for life just for the purpose of the debate, but you're not watching the actual video. You're just, all Kent wants to do is just give the same seminar, go through the same PowerPoint slides over and 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 over.
Theories of organic evolution. Paulogia, this is certainly part of your theory. You have to have life get started. But you want to start with life, and I understand why. And we're going to do that. I'll still debate you. Nobody knows how lifeless chemicals spontaneously organize themselves to a first living cell. Nobody knows how they did that. They say it started in the primordial soup, a term introduced by the Soviet biologist Operin, 1924. He proposed
Oprah?
The theory of the origin of life, that it came gradual chemical evolution of particles that can primordial soup, really.
You barely read that sentence, Kent.
Primordial soup. You can Google it. Yep, we all came from soup. Primordial soup. The Earth had a chemically reducing atmosphere. Not true, but that's what they start off with. This atmosphere, exposed to energy, like sunlight hitting it, created polymers. And ultimately life developed in the soup. This is what they teach. It was once thought that appreciable amounts of molecular oxygen were present in the prebiotic atmosphere. Most important pieces of experimental support for the soup theory came in 1953. That's the year I was born, when Miller and Urey performed an experiment that demonstrated how organic molecules could have spontaneously formed from inorganic precursors under conditions like those they postulated. I see. This provided direct evidence to support the second point of the soup theory. You can read all about prebiotic soup, but the origin of life is, you have to have that, Paul. I don't know how you're going to get around that.
Okay, well, you have to have the origin of God to explain creationism then. How about that? Where did God come from? Oh, he just is. It's just like Hovind. Hovind just exists.
But you don't want to talk about that, and I know why, okay? Nobody's ever been able to demonstrate how non-living material can come alive. You imagine that. This coffee cup can be made by humans from clay from the ground. The coffee cup cannot make itself.
Is it alive?
This body can be made by an infinite, all-wise God. Can't make itself.
If an infinite, all-wise God made Kent Hovind, then we've got problems.
Miller experiment produced many substances that would undergo cross reactions. They can read about that. It really would have destroyed itself. It could not have produced life. Evolution encompasses a wide range of phenomena: emergence of major lineages, mass extinctions, evolution of antibiotic-resistant bacteria.
So none of the other stuff that you said that you've been talking about for the past 15 minutes.
However, within the field of evolutionary biology, the origin of life is of special interest. Berkeley University.
The field, not the theory.
You have to have life get started somehow, Paul. Come on now. I know you want to bypass that. I know why. I'll show you why in a minute.
He's literally agreeing with you, Kent. You just don't know that because you won't even watch the stinking video. Okay, from Dave Dallafiore, we have a super chat that says, Kent is more out of touch than Hall and Oates. Well, I am too young to understand that joke.
Many lines of evidence help illuminate the origin of life. Fossils. Oh, fossils that tell about the origin of life? Really? Radiometric dating is going to tell you how life got started? You guys are insane. Let's see. They do not represent a change in the basis of evolutionary theory, from Berkeley University. Let's see. Here you can learn about important hypotheses regarding when, where, and how life originated. It is part of the evolution theory.
Just saying it over and over again doesn't make it true.
The first Earth was formed from a solid ball of molten rock with no atmosphere. As Earth began to cool and the crust and mantle began to harden, material from their inner regions would sometimes erupt through the surface. The ball cooled some 4 billion years ago.
I wanted to say we're now at 165 live viewers, so thank you to all the people watching the stream. Thank you to the people who have sent super chats. I love you. I kiss you.
The outside hardened and formed a crust. I think I'm reading this accurately. The Earth was a hot ball of rock. It cooled down and developed a rocky crust. Okay? 4.1 billion years ago, the Earth's surface or crust began to cool and stabilize, creating a solid surface. And then clouds formed and it rained on the rocks for millions of years, right? Just as species are believed to have evolved over time, the individual molecules that form the basis of life also likely developed in response to natural selection.
Sure, why not?
Life on Earth first bloomed 3.7 billion years ago. Compounds in a primordial soup somehow sparked to life. By studying the evolution of not just life, but life's building blocks, we hope to come closer to the answer. The molecules swimming in early Earth's primordial soup would have been continually destroyed by ultraviolet radiation from the sun. Sometimes came out with protection that neither alone had. They get together and protect themselves from the mean old sun. Right. Of course, if life arose in deep sea hydrothermal vents, that would explain it. So the origin of life had to take place down deep in the ocean. Couldn't happen on the surface.
Not what it said at all.
Because, let's see, concentration of organic. I want to get to something else here. Let me skip this. You can read it for yourself.
Thank
This has
God.
been taught for years. Yes, Paulogia, they do have 4 parts to the evolution theory that you don't want to talk about, okay? The origin of life has not been explained. The mystery of the origin of life.
Neither is the origin of God.
Nobody's been able to explain how life got started. God said, let there be living creatures. God created living creatures. This is the first chapter. God made the winged fowls. God said,
Yeah, but doesn't it say God made the birds out of the water, though, or something like that? Okay, for Dave Dallafur, it says Kent stars in Rocky 6. Well, I hope they have the robot from Rocky 4, I think it was, or Rocky 3.
The earth bring forth the living creature. God made the beast of the earth, and everything that creepeth upon the earth. God created man in his own image. God saw everything was good, very good. I believe that.
If God created man in his own image, then why are there different races of people? Why is it that we have male and female? Is God like both? Or do you believe God is a woman?
I don't think there's another logical explanation. The Lord formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. I believe that. Now, I can't prove that. I'm not asking everybody to pay for that to be taught.
Yeah, you are, Kent. You've spoken in tons of public schools. You tried to influence Arkansas law to change what textbooks could and couldn't be bought with taxpayer money. You have something called a public school presentation. You have videos targeted at children. You have told people, go to the public bus stop and tell the kids you'll pay them to watch my videos. Just give them the videos. It'll change their lives. And you say that, the Bible can be taught in public schools. There's never a law against it. But we should get evolution out of the school because evolution is a religion and you can't have religion in public schools.
You guys are making everybody pay for your religion to be taught. Deuteronomy, see now that I am he. There is no God with me. I kill, I make alive, I wound, I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. Thou alone art Lord alone. Thou hast made heaven with all their host, the earth, and all that is therein. I believe that. God made the world and all things therein. I believe that. He giveth to all life.
So that includes parasitic ticks, the bubonic plague, cholera, bacne, cockroaches, all diseases, childhood leukemia, erectile dysfunction, the Brazilian wandering spider, young Sheldon. God created all these things?
Life and breath and all things. I believe that. In the sight of God who quickeneth, that means come alive, all things. You cut your finger down into the quick. That's the live part, right? So have scientists made life in the lab? Nowhere close. If they did, it would only prove it takes intelligence to make life. God claims clearly that he created life, and until scientists can prove life was formed by chance without God, they should admit this is a vital step in evolution, and it's believed to have happened. They should admit it is a religion and not allow it to be taught publicly in funded schools.
What a ridiculous stipulation. Until science has literally figured out everything about this, don't have it in the textbook. And that's not how science is done. With science, we don't figure out the truth about something and that's the end of it. We have explanations that are the currently most accurate explanations because they've made testable predictions that were accurate and came true, or the theory works. So until there's a better theory, we use this one. We don't just figure things out and then we just figured it out and it's never going to get updated. No, science is always changing. But we have theories, and we have theories that are made up of bodies of facts, but that doesn't mean that we just get to a stopping point in science. And it's dumb to say that until you've proven everything about this, don't teach any of it, you know? We should teach kids what we've learned so far at least.
Hello, Paul. You want to debate, but you want to leave off these first four definitions. Okay, then help me get those first four things out of the textbooks in schools, because that's where they teach it. They should start off with living material. Well, teacher, how do they get it? We can't talk about that. But no, they do talk about it, and the books talk about it. So, first four you don't want to talk about. Most evolutionists, including Paulogia, want to pretend that these first four stages are not part of the evolution theory, but they are essential. You got to have them. Imagine we took a journey to the center of the earth. What would we find? What would we eat? Would we find dinosaurs?
You'd find Eric Hovind.
You can imagine all you want, Paul. These first four stages are essential to your theory. You say they're not part of evolution. Yes, they are. You only want to focus attention on changes once life starts. Okay? Let's start with life. Then you got to have macroevolution. Now, Paul, just for you, I'm going to give you a bacteria to start with. So just for you, Paul, we're going to give you a bacteria. I'll give you 20 of them. Is that enough? 20. I'll give you 100 bacteria to start with. There we go. Tree of life. Stephen Bloom, a dentist and writer and engineer, said, a single human cell, like a skin cell or liver cell, is far more complex than the space shuttle or than a nuclear submarine. Even more astounding is the fact that the billions of biochemical molecules inside cells act like incredibly intelligent beings with eyes, swim fins, and a brain. They just know where to go, just what to do, and when they do it, they do their thing in incredibly fast motion. Let's see, the system that synthesizes proteins is unbelievably complex. Yet 2,000 protein molecules are synthesized every second in every cell of your body, 24/7. If you could enlarge a cell to the size of a basketball, if you could open it up and watch, you would see a constant and endless blur of activity.
Of course, this guy is a dentist. They're always dentists.
Each cell, more complicated than a nuclear submarine, Paul. I'm going to give you 20 of them, right?
What? You're gonna give him bacteria? What, are you gonna sneeze on him?
Just for you. We'll give you bacteria, origin of life. The textbooks certainly show charts like this. They drew lines on paper. Let's see, here we have, well, the shark is connected to the seaweed. Yeah, and the octopus, there it is, and the snail. Wow, they're all connected.
The tailbone's connected to the Hovind. The Hovind's connected to the tax fraud.
What evidence do you have, Paul, for any life form? I'm going to start with life, like you want for the debate. Starting with bacteria, ending up with vertebrates, that would include humans, including starfish, wow, pine trees, mushrooms. There's a fungus among us. Look at that. Okay.
Oh, there's a Hovind among us.
The tree of life. What evidence do you have for this, Paul? That's what the debate will be about. We'll skip the first four just for you.
Well, maybe you would see what evidence he has if you would just play the video. But instead, you're showing the first stipulation. That's it. And then we've had like 40 minutes of you just giving your seminar again. And Paul's video is fairly long, but he does give 3 examples of evidence. And Kent could at least mention those. Okay, and we have super chat from Veronique Bellamy for $2.79 Canadian. It says, heaven is that screensaver with the flying toasters. Yes, after dark screensavers. That's classic. And from Dave Dalafiore, it says, dentists look like you hit a nerve. Too soon.
I'm going to give you a bacteria. How do you get from a bacteria to, let's see, a human or a snail or sponges? How do you do this?
Please don't give me a bacteria, Kent. Where's my mask?
What evidence do you have for any life form ever producing anything other than its kind? That's what God said would happen. Here we got the humans are related to the chickens. Oh, and look at the frogs. Clear back.
Oh, the frogs. If evolution is true, why do we still have Hovind? Hovind?
To the common ancestor, the bacteria. Drawing lines on paper is not evidence that it happened. That's all they do, though. They put these trees of life in the textbooks. That's my complaint. Stop lying
Sus.
To the kids, none of this is science.
Evolution is pretty sus.
All right. Here's your stipulation number 2.
I don't expect Kent to ever in 6,000 years agree to this.
Well, there you go.
Oh, didn't have to wait 6 hours. I agree. We'll skip the first 4, Paul, just for you. I'm going to give you 20. I'll give you 25 bacteria.
I thought we were up to 100, Kent. You trying to jip Paul? I see what you're doing. See what you're doing. And if we're skipping the first 4, why did you just spend the last half hour talking about them?
Make an elephant.
The rest of this may be academic, but I'd personally add
Make a tax return.
a few more for the sake of efficiency.
Okay.
Stipulation 2 would be a bit of a give on my part. For the sake of argument, the debate would assume that a personal deity was the creator of the first replicating molecules.
Wow, we just wasted all that time talking about the origin of life, didn't we?
Of life from non-life. I would agree, for the sake of the debate, to a designer.
And I'm going to give you self-replicating molecules, 25 of them. Should I give him 30?
Why you said you were going to give him 100. What happened to that?
All right, 30 bacteria, Paul. Go ahead.
This would
30 bacteria.
accomplish several things. It would appropriately keep abiogenesis and anything prior out of the debate.
And I know why, Paul. Anybody else know why he wants to keep that out of the debate?
Because it's irrelevant?
Because it doesn't happen. It's not science, and you know it.
Stop winking. It's weird.
But I'm going to, just for you, first 4, we won't talk about them. I may mention in the comments later that you couldn't handle those 4, could you? Nobody can. Nobody can.
Nobody can handle the Hovenmeister.
I want to give you 35 bacteria. Yeah, okay.
You said 100, Kent. So you owe him another 65.
Since biological evolution does not speak to it, making it a red herring.
Oh, no. Biological evolution, you have nothing to evolve. If you don't have the first 4 stages, where did you get these things to evolve from, Paul? You don't have a good theory.
You don't have a good theory of gravity if you don't explain where all of the planets came from. Stupid. You don't have a good theory of nuclear fusion if you don't explain where literally every atom came from.
You have a religious belief, and you should admit that.
It would also keep the focus on the actual evidence. How?
I'm ready. Focus on the actual evidence of how you turned a bacteria to an elephant. I would like to see that.
When did Paul do that? Okay. For $4.99 from Dave Dallafure, ask your doctor if Hovind is safe for you. Do not use Hovind if you're pregnant or may become pregnant or think you might be pregnant, or if you had somebody ask you if you were pregnant but you were really just fat.
I'd like to see that. Show me how it happened.
It was done, not who did it. It would also remove any motivation-assuming attacks, which are entirely non-helpful in a debate.
Oh, that's why you brought up all the stuff about me going to prison and having an ankle monitor. Yeah, I understand, Paul.
No, he's talking about the motivation for why people believe in evolutionism is because they want to get God out of their life because it threatens their lifestyle. Okay, when Kent Hovind says the word lifestyle, that's a dog whistle for being gay.
Why can't they say this is designed?
And I'm right.
Because that means there's a designer. Very simple. They don't want there to be a designer because they don't want him telling them what to do.
And
they don't want him telling them not to be gay. Hovind. 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 And the Flintstones family.
The final stipulation would be that I'm not here to debate or discuss what's published in textbooks or taught in classrooms.
AJ, have you spent 3 seconds trying to get this lie out of the textbook?
I love that he put that reference to me in this video. I just think that's so funny because I helped Paul find some clips for this video, so I just thought that was really funny that he put that reference in. Oh.
Then help me get that out of the textbooks because it is in the textbooks.
First, I'm Canadian, so my influence on the American education system is negligible anyhow.
Paul, I have some Canadian textbooks in my collection.
No, you don't.
It's in your textbooks too. And you love it. You intend to keep all the Big Bang stuff in there, don't you? You would never try to get that out, even though you don't want it in the debate. Why don't you get it out of the textbooks, Paul?
That is the most bizarre reasoning I have ever heard, Kent. What? You don't want it in the debate because it's irrelevant. That means that you suddenly think it's not true and it should be taken out of the textbooks? That's... Your logic is so manipulative, Kent. Okay, for 5 pounds from, or whatever that is, from Hammock Dweller, it says, if there is God and he made Kent in his image, oh dear. Oh, a dear, a female Howard.
Those first 4, come on. Origin of life, never been demonstrated. Why don't you get that out of the books in your Canadian system up there?
But more importantly, I'm sure Kent would agree that what is or isn't taught has no bearing at all on what's true.
Well, I think it's important that kids be taught the truth.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You think it's important that kids be taught what you want them to be taught. What you think is true, Kent. It's not what's actually true, because everything that Kent thinks is true, according to Kent.
You don't think... What if your schools were teaching 2 + 2 is 5 and messing the kids up from kindergarten on?
Math is a system where basically humans have invented it, or rather invented the terms in it for our own purposes. So math is descriptive, where science, or I think I have that wrong. Math is prescriptive and science is descriptive of the environment that we already live in. Math is something where we sort of come up with the concepts, at least some of them, like, you know, oh, well, what is the concept of 2? Well, we called it 2, you know what I mean? We could have used a different word for it. That's what I'm saying.
Don't you think that would be hard on the rest of their education? If you start off lying to them in kindergarten, 1st grade, and say dinosaurs lived millions of years ago, you start off lying to them like that, I think it is important.
That's not a lie, and that's not even what he said. You just went off talking about something other than what he said. He was like, I think Kent would agree with this. He's like, well, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to say something different. Hovind.
But for you, we're going to skip it, Paul. Call 855 Big Dino. Don't have my phone. Extension 3. I'll schedule you a debate soon as possible. We could even do. Would you guys, tech guys, come in and film it if we couldn't do it at 7 o'clock because we're tied up? We could do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, anytime, Paul. Please call.
Please call me. Please. I'm begging you. I don't want to do friends.
That's it. Pretty easy, right? After Kent clears his name, we have 3 rules from him.
Wait, after I clear my name?
Yeah, you're not paying attention, are you, Kent?
Oh, he's talking about the Cindy thing? Oh, brother, you coward. There's nothing going on there. It's going to be fine, okay?
Then you have nothing to worry about.
Come on. Call for the debate, Paul. 855 Big Dino, please.
Equal time.
Please, I'm begging you.
Time, 1 topic at a time, no cursing, and 3 rules from me. Agree in advance on definitions to be used in the debate, including the definition of evolution. Both stipulate, for the sake of the debate, that life has a designer, and schools, taxes, and textbooks are irrelevant to the discussion.
So Kent failed on all of those.
Fair enough. What's the evidence for evolution of any animal? We're going to start with bacteria. How do you get from a single-celled bacteria to any other kind of animal? And where's the scientific evidence? How long have they been trying to do that in the laboratory and can't do it?
Do what?
Do you think it happened by itself? Okay, fair enough.
If you want evidence, Kent, you could have watched more of the video instead of wasting all that time talking about something that you admit you'd be skipping in the actual debate. It's just unbelievably stupid how much of a waste of time that was, Kent. As if you need to say all that stuff anyway, because we already know all that. We don't need you to repeat it in every single video.
I'm going to take your stipulations, Paul. Call 855 Big Dino.
But here, in Kent's latest personalized challenge to me, he added some extra notes.
I'll debate Paulogia any day.
Oh, it's Emma. Look. Hi, Emma.
Won't I? Paulogia, come on. And this time, let's see the real you, not the cartoon character with the muscles, okay?
If a debate between us were to ever happen, I'd definitely be on camera, as I am for all my debates, live appearances, and call-in shows.
Without the muscles? Okay.
So no worries.
He's filmed from the shoulder up. What muscles? In his neck? What are you talking about? He looks exactly the same. Is it me or does he look exactly the same? You guys in chat can tell me.
There. I'm not sure why the cartoon bothers you so.
It doesn't bother me. I think it ought to bother you that you have to do that. You make yourself into a. This is me. I'm live all the time. I don't deepen my voice either to make me sound more authoritative.
No, you would never talk or sing in a deep voice, Kent. I took Jesus in my heart, you take him too. Hoven too. I went to jail for tax fraud, you can go too. Way in Hoven land.
I think it's funny. Go ahead.
I'd be perfectly willing to let you use the idea.
I've never drawn a cartoon of me in my life. I wouldn't know how to do it. Somebody sent that to me, and I stuck it in my seminar series. I'm sorry it bothers you. I'll remove it for this debate if it.
He paused the video so fast. He saw it and he instantly paused it. He's like, "Oh, bail. I saw this and look at Kent's chin. You could cut steel with that chin." It made me so happy to see this. And I love how Kent is like this confident, like prep looking guy. And then the scientist is bald and frumpy. He's like, "It's evolution."
Okay. Somebody else did that.
Realized Kent Hovind cartoon that you use in your presentation.
Call me 855 Big Dino, Paulogia. Open challenge. When you want to debate again.
Again? We've never debated a first time. With so many debates and whackings, it's no surprise that the details are a bit of a blur for Kent.
Thank you. It is a blur. Okay, life is a blur. Here we keep busy. And I'm sorry if I said debate you again. Remove that, okay? I'll debate you. Anytime. As many times as you want. Schedule 20 in a row. I want to see the evidence you've got for evolution.
Well, you could have seen that if you would have watched more of the video.
Bring it on.
No worries. But let's pay careful attention to the proposed debate format.
You start off, give the best evidence you know of for evolution. I'll counter that. Then you give best evidence number 2. I'll counter that.
Okay. So I'm supposed to present something. Kent gets a turn to counter that. I get no time to counter the counter.
Okay. Well, just for you, we'll go take 1 point, the best evidence for evolution, and discuss it back and forth all night. You get
all night long, all night. Hovind all night long with Hovind.
The best evidence. I'll explain how stupid it is. Then
I can feel it, Hovind in the air tonight. Oh Lord.
You can explain where I'm wrong, and then I'll explain where you're wrong. We'll take just 1 point. When you're sick of that one, then you can go on to number 2. Okay? Good point you made here. And we can go back and forth on just 1 point as many times as you'd like. Where is the evidence of a bacteria ever producing anything other than a bacteria? I want scientific evidence, something you can document, not imagination.
Or ask follow-up questions.
You can ask all the follow-up questions you want. Point number 1, what is the best evidence you have, Paulogia? Just one, for evolution.
Bacteria is a kingdom. So you can't have a bacteria become a non-bacteria. That is just, you have prokaryotes and eukaryotes. It just doesn't make any sense to say that.
Or say anything, really. I'm supposed to just move on to my next slide.
No, I'm going to let you talk back and forth on that one much as you want. No problem.
That's not a debate. What you're describing is a lecture, but with built-in time for unmoderated heckling from the audience.
If you don't mind, I'll do the jokes. We don't mind, but when are you going to do them?
Fair enough. Come on. My channel, your channel, both channels. Neutral channel.
My channel, your channel, Hovind channel, Pornhub, Her Affinity, DeviantArt. We can do it anywhere.
Come on, Paulogia. You brave warrior.
I mean, for the format Kent proposes, there's no reason I'd even need to be present.
I will refrain. Paulogia?
What does that even mean? I mean, what were you going to say? I don't get
855
it.
Big Dino. Schedule a debate. You give the best evidence for evolution. I'll explain why it's not. You go back and say, yes, it is, and tell me why I'm wrong, and we'll go back and forth on just that one until you want to move on. How's that?
Well, that was painful. To answer your question, Kent, how was that? That was very painful. That was very tedious to sit through. But what else is new? So, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below telling me what you thought of the stream. And if you would like to support content like this, then you could consider visiting my Patreon at patreon.com/atheistjr and look at the tiers. See if you might want to pledge as little as $1 per month. You can unlock access to early videos, Patreon exclusive videos, exclusive live streams, channel updates, my stupid jokes I post on there. And also, you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/atheistjr. But watching this video, it seems to me that while I would certainly enjoy seeing Paul debate Kent, based on these stipulations, Kent will never, ever in a million years agree to these. Never. Because he can't. He cannot not talk about his 6 steps of evolution. He will never agree that that's not his definition, because that would mean that he's been giving a straw man argument for 30 years. He will never, ever admit that, even if he pretends like he is in this video. So he's pretending to live, agree to these stipulations. He would never do that. But because of Kent's ego, he has to act like, oh, well, I totally would agree. It's just, I don't actually agree, so, lying. Okay, well, I will see you guys in the next video. So, thanks for watching.